If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then this, the UK Property Market Stat Show, is for you. My name is Chris Watkin, and each week I bring you this show with a special guest, a different guest each week. This week it's Verona Frankish. We'll come to Verona in a second. What is this show all about? Well, for those of you who have not watched the show before, property stats are something that the Brits love to bits, and we follow the Land Registry, the Nationwide and the Halifax. But I don't know if you're aware, ladies and gentlemen, the Halifax and Nationwide are looking from sales from 2 or 3 months ago. The Land Registry is looking at sales that were agreed 8 or 9 months ago. We're looking at housing transaction and house prices from last week. So by knowing what's happening last week, we can foretell what's going to happen to those indices in 2, 4, 6, 8 months' time. So if you want the inside track on the property market, then this UK Property Market Stat Show is for you. This week is week 27 of 2024. My word, it'll be Christmas time soon. And that is Monday, the 1st of July, all the way through and including Sunday, the 7th of July. Verona is the boss lady of Yopa, who's one of the biggest estate agents in the UK with a nationwide network. And recently she published some stats showing that her agents produce some of the best stats in the UK. She's absolutely fantastic and very well thought of in the industry and looked up to. Verona, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Chris. Quite an intro. Always good to catch up with you.
I think you only come on this show for the intro. That's what most people.
Absolutely not. No, as you know, I'm a big data geek as you are, and I can only share the data that I was able to share because I'm also a huge fan of 20EA. So yeah, this is good for me.
Absolutely fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've not watched the show before, it's roughly split up into two. The first half is where we look at the UK property market and really look at listings, sale agreed, house prices, net sales, fall throughs and stuff, and price reductions and awesome things like that. And then the second part looks at a particular town or city where we really deep dive and have a look at what's happening in that particular property market. Now, this week we're on with Canterbury. Now, even if you're not from Canterbury and you're an estate or letting agent, you're looking for a way to beat your competitors if your other agents are overvaluing or they're underperforming, they're not selling many houses, then the piece of kit that we're going to be showing you, which again, Verona's just let the cat out of the bag, but never mind, because if you've been watching the show, we mention it every week. There's a piece of kit we're going to be using called Insights. And Insights is a platform from the firm 20EA. Now, myself, I'm the biggest fanboy, although others in the industry think they're bigger fanboys. And I do know for a fact that Verona is in competition with Steph Walker of being the biggest fangirl of 20EA Insights. And basically is a brilliant data source, which can not just lists how many houses you put on the market, but actually shows you that you are a much, much better estate agent as long as you are performing a better estate agent. So if you are looking for an inside track or an unfair advantage or want to prove that you're a better agent, then even if you're not from Canterbury, then listen in to that part of the show and we'll show you the bit of kit called Insights. As I said, if you're interested, there is a free version of it. And then there is if you pay them some money, it's not a lot of money, but I'm not going to tell you how much it is because I'm not on commission. And for God's sake, please don't mention my name. But okay, fanboy hashtag. Right then, shall we have a look and we'll go and look at those stellar Roonies? Yeah. Okay, here we go. So, as always, Verona, we start with listings. So I'll just go through the numbers and then you can give us your insight, okay? So this week, as a country, we have listed 34,672 properties. And you can see that with the yellow band there. Now, again, anyone listening to this on the podcast, there is a link that you can download with these graphs. And also, ladies and gentlemen, all the graphs I'm going to show you today are available to download on the YouTube channel on the description. What I do say is this: you can use them internally and you can use them at your valuation, but please, you're not to use them on social media because I do give these to my clients. This show is a hobby of mine, but the data I give to my paying clients because my daytime job is I'm a property economist and ghostwriter writing content about property markets. But you can use this at your valuation. You don't have to be a client of mine. So valuation, as I said, so valuations, sorry, start again. Listings, 34,672, with an average asking price of a listing at 456. Year to date, we are on 958,000 properties that have listed, which is 8% further on than the 2023 year-to-date figure, 7.3% higher than the average of 17, 18 and 19, because they were more normal years, and 11% more than the whole 8-year average. This is one of my favorite graphs here. And again, you know, listings are down, but I would expect, look at the more normal years of 17, 18 or 19. I don't know if you've heard, Verona, but it's summer and the market does start to quieten off, doesn't it? So anyway,
Well,
give us your thoughts.
first of all, based on our weather, I'm not sure it is summer, but we'll take it based on the fact that we're mid-July, then it probably should be. I suppose just to give a bit of timestamp on this week and some of the other macro things that are happening in the UK last week. So we did have a general election last week, albeit that there was a fair amount of confidence in what the outcome of that election was going to be. It still was a distraction in our world. We obviously have had the Euros last week, quite a bit of tennis going on. We had the Grand Prix yesterday, is obviously Wimbledon going on as well. So I think there's quite a lot of activity that was going on that could potentially have been a distraction from the housing market. But if you look at all of those numbers, Chris, I think it's fair to say that we're holding up rather well. I think we've been pretty resilient. We're not bucking any of the average trends of the years that we would refer to as average, 17, 18 and 19. Obviously, there is some skews against 2021 and 2020 and 2021. But for the most part, I think we're following the pretty robust and resilient trend that we've seen all year. So I think holding up really well in terms of listings particularly.
Absolutely bang on. And again, ladies and gentlemen, just for those of you who have not watched the show before, you'll see that the market is pretty predictable in the fact that the first dip of the year is always Easter. And you can see because Easter falls in a different week depending on the year. Those are all the Easter dips. And then we always have 2 dips, and they're the bank holidays in May. And there's a little, there's the August bank holiday. But isn't it interesting that we always have a slight uplift just before you go into the bank holiday? So
it's interesting.
Now, what is also particularly interesting also is this, is when everyone comes, London is a law to itself. And I've said this a number of times, but I just want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, is that London really does screw the figures up. And what happens is in August, everyone goes away in London. I mean, really just goes away to Provence and all where the posh people go, not where people from the East Midlands like you and I come from, where, you know, and what happens is that there is a massive, dump is the wrong word, but massive uplift in listings. And that uplift there from 30 to 30 is London, always is. And we'll see later in the graph how that affects the average price, because obviously London prices. Any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah, just on that particular graph, Chris, I think it's going to be interesting this year. So reference what I was just saying about the macro factors that are influencing how we behave or how consumers behave. It's been widely predicted that we'll see a base rate decrease in August. And if we do, it'll be really interesting to see how that then impacts the bounce as we go into September, because as you can see from here, we do get a little bit of a bounce, but it would be great if we could get a bit of a bounce, a bigger bounce in September, and that we get a base rate increase, because I think that would give another boost that we all need, or that buyers particularly are looking for.
I mean, the question is, do we need a boost? When we looked at what Rishi Sunak did, after the first lockdown, is that the market was coming back quite well, and then all of a sudden you got like a 5-litre can of petrol and poured it on it. And I
think it depends what the boost is, right? If you're talking about a sort of a superficial stamp duty boost, then no, I don't think we do need that. But a base rate decrease, clearly, despite the fact that we've been very resilient, cost of living is still a challenge in a lot of parts of the country, and therefore giving buyers the confidence that and a bit of flexibility on their affordability, and also then the sellers the confidence that there's enough buyers out there that they're going to get a fair price for their property, the whole thing kicks in. So I don't think that's necessarily the fake boost that we've seen in the past. I think that's a sustainable one, and just nudging interest rates and mortgage rates down a little bit. I don't think we need them to get back to 1%, 2%, but if we could get our mortgage rates into the sort of late threes as opposed to the late fours, which is where they are today, then that would be really helpful.
You're right. It will help with the sentiment, and that is the emotional side of buying a homes. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, estate agents, we often forget about that. We're too close to the coalface. A lot of people move on emotion. A lot of 95% of decisions that a human makes, the emotional side of the brain has to say yes first. So it will all help. But if you're waiting for the whole market, just because if you're a crap agent and you're waiting for that sentiment to help you out, no, just get better as an estate agent. But again, I'm sure that will come up later when we. Anyway, so this is number of price changes this week. So the number of price changes is 19,161, based on the fact that there is 700,000 properties for sale. That is 1 in 8.6 homes are being reduced per month. Again, to give you an idea. The number of properties that were for sale, well, actually, let's pull that information up now, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. So, number of properties for sale. So there you go. 700. This is a new graph. I know we only update it once a month, and we're at the start of the month, so we've updated it. This is the number of properties that are for sale month by month on the end of each month. So the yellow line is the end of June. Okay. So there were 700,524 properties for sale at the end of June, and then all the other yellows are all the other end of June's as a comparison. So the number of properties for sale, when compared to your likes of your 21 and 22, is a lot more, but very, very similar to 17, 18s and 19s. Not a huge and massive amount of, probably 6-7% more than then. But it's something that is very important to be aware of when it comes to stock. Now, here's again, we are treating you today, ladies and gentlemen. Here's another graph. The number of properties that are for sale by region, and you can see here that obviously, the number of properties for sale in outer London has dropped, which is very strange. But in inner London, they've gone up. There you go. Those are interesting stats, aren't they? And then there is.
This was really interesting. I thought seeing the regional difference here was really interesting. So obviously from a London perspective, you see massive variance compared to the rest of the country. So to your point earlier, it has such a huge impact on the total property market and prices in particular.
Whilst we're here, we'll just look at the number of properties that are in estate agents' pipelines. 481,880 on the 30th of June, going into July. And again, that's compared to, so this is unit numbers compared, and then all the other yellow white lines are the same end of June for 23 going all the way back to 17. But I mean, to say that on average there's over 100,000 more properties in estate agents' pipelines today compared to 18 or 19. And I will just say for the record, ladies and gentlemen, it was still taking the same amount of time to get a sale through in 17 and 18 to 19. It was 17 to 19 weeks. So
we've not made any progress there. I think this is really interesting, Chris, this number, because if you look at the first graph that you showed where we've just crept into the 700,000, and if that was creeping in and continue to grow, but we weren't growing our sales pipelines, that will be a concern. But pipelines of sales are still growing. So exactly this one, you're maintaining that balance between available stock versus SSTC. So I think that's a really great indicator.
So again, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The green, so this is just proportional. So the green is the number of unit numbers in agents pipeline, and the orange line is the number of properties that are for sale, and the proportional. If you want to do actual raw numbers, there you go. So again, it always happens: roller coaster up, then she'll dip down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So again, that will drift off in July and August next year. In August, as more houses come to sell and less houses that are being put on the market versus
yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's go back. Okay. So the average price of a property being reduced 389. Remember, the average price of a property coming on the market 456. So
yeah, that's getting a bit that gap is getting a bit bigger again, isn't it? The gap between the properties coming to market and the properties selling.
So this is the graph here. So the red line shows you the average asking price of properties coming onto the market. That's the London, everyone dumping their houses on the market in Kensington and Chelsea. That's what happens. And then obviously it brought itself back. It's the gap between the two. Remember, and I say this every week, lower price properties have a higher propensity to sell. And therefore the average price of a property selling, which is the orange line, is going to be lower. It's the gap. Now, that gap this week is, hold on, 24.4, and it's been at those mid-20s for a while.
Yeah.
So that either shows that agents are overvaluing, although agents have always overvalued since Adam was a boy. Also more higher price properties coming on the market, but you're not selling them. Also, whilst we're all over the place this week, but I love this, is this is a snapshot of each week, but the weeks hardly change. Hold on a second. Look at the greeny line, the way that just keeps going up. So that's the average asking price of stuff coming on the market. But look at the turquoise line. You know, it's drifting off, and those numbers hardly change week to week. So that just shows you that the lower price properties are selling more. So if you want to actually get paid on it, you might want to look at the lower price properties.
And I think that talks to the point we were making earlier about affordability, that even if you do want to trade up, there isn't that disposable income now for buyers to potentially trade up to the next property, and they're having to make do or compromise on some elements of their search in order to fit within the affordability criteria that they have. So if we did get a bit of good news on the mortgage front, that means that we could potentially move some of that higher price property.
Wise words, wise words. Right, let's move on to gross sales this week. We have sold 24,858. So we'll just put that on the graph, and you can see here that it's been hanging around that sort of level now for a couple of weeks, which is really good when you consider that the pink line is what happened in 2023. Give you an idea, in 2023, the same week, 21,200 properties as opposed to 24,900 this week, give or take a few pennies. And the average for the whole week, so week 27, the average is 25,502, and that does include 2020 and 2021. So that's not bad. To say that we've got roughly the same number of sales, including the silly years of 2021 and 22, because it had kicked in by now.
Yeah, I think, you know, that for me, our sales rate as a nation has been incredibly resilient. And I guess some of that is some of the things that we talked about earlier. Larger price properties coming to market, but the ones that are selling are the more affordable properties. So the 300 and I think it was 86 you mentioned, but we are definitely seeing resilience in selling. And I think that for agents who are so reliant on their pipeline come through to completion, whilst the time frame is not anywhere where it needs to be, that needs to be shorter. At least we are still getting through to selling, which is great.
Good stuff, good stuff. Right then, okay. Let's go back and get back to the stats. Here we go. So sales are great. Gross sales year to date is 666,059, which is 10.5% higher than it was in 23 and 6.7% higher than 17, 18 and 19. The average asking price of a property selling, so this is the headline price before the reduction, whatever was knocked off, 366,000. We've already seen that graph with the turquoise and the bluish greeny lines. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad at all, is it? Like we said. Let's move on. We've done those graphs, done that one, done that one. Let's go to fall throughs.
Yeah.
So, fall throughs are rising.
Yeah, that was the one kind of red flag when I was reviewing these earlier, that There was definitely an increase in fall throughs, and I just wonder how much of that is down to mortgages and affordability, and chains not completing as a consequence of that. And
Well,
I've definitely, sorry, Chris, go on.
No, go on.
I was going to say I've definitely noticed over the last couple of weeks, and people that I've been talking to, both within my network, but also within the business, where they're struggling to see completions coming through, and chains are starting to break, where there's one or two people in the chain that is just not able to complete, and that's causing a number of fall throughs. So for me, this is a watch out, given everything we've just talked about.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased. If there is one takeaway, if you're a valuer or something, please seriously consider reservation agreements. Reservation agreements mean, and are where the buyer and the seller put 2 or 3 grand in. If it's a high price property, it might be a bit more. And if the sale falls through, the other person gets the 3 or 4 grand. Okay. Now, if the sale falls through because of the survey, or the sale falls through because the chain breaks down, everyone keeps their money. But what it does, and I will bang on about it constantly, it's game changer stuff. It means that if someone's been a bit of a twat, technical estate agency term, and they're saying, if I don't complete, then they've got 3 grand on that, and I'm pulling out. They've got, honestly,
You've got skin in the game. There's a consequence, and unfortunately, our system means that for too many people, there isn't a consequence.
No, and how many times have we been? It's a Friday morning. If I don't effing exchange and complete today, I'm not effing moving, and then they have regret over the weekend. The emotions get in the way. But if you've got reservation agreements, I'm not going to mention any firms. There's about 3 or 4 of them out there, possibly even 5. They're all good. Please seriously consider it. It is game changing stuff. Right. Okay. Now, let's back to fall throughs. It is rising, but sales are rising. So therefore, in context, we do need to look at the percentage.
Yeah.
And this is the number of fall throughs in a week as a percentage of sale agreeds. And it has just gone up to 20.
Still rising a bit. Yeah. Not to the same extent as gross fall throughs, but certainly it's still rising.
And let us not forget that the average for the last 7 years is 24.28. Okay. So therefore, let's just again, those
not too far away from that.
Yeah. Look, this is the Truss budget. Ignore the Christmas spikes because the numbers are so low, the percentages are all over the place. Okay. That was, 20%, 1 in 5 houses was in spring of 23. Then we had the interest rate rises, which means that fall through rates were at 30, drifting down, slight drifting up here. So again, 24, it's been hovering around 21, 22 for a while, but not particularly end of the world stuff. But just be aware of it, and you can mitigate that. The other thing which I'm a big believer in is outsourcing. I don't necessarily mean outsourcing it to another firm, having dedicated sales progression. Nets always lead to the end. I'm a massive fan of dedicated sales progression, either outsourcing it if you haven't got enough sales. But
absolutely.
Just negs are crap. Negs sweeping statement, there are some good ones out there, but generally you don't get sales progression with people that are doing sales. They get their dopamine from doing the deal, and sales progression is boring, and then that doesn't get chased, and all of a sudden the sale that should only take 12 weeks is now 19 weeks. Most of it is our own fault. And
I'm a huge fan generally of if you can manage it, specialization, keeping people in their lane, because their different skill sets require different approaches. And sales progression in sales is exactly a very good example of that, segmenting those activities.
Good stuff. You can see, ladies and gentlemen, why we invite Verona back every few months. She's exceptionally good value for money. Right, this is net sales, and on this graph we do actually include the magic years of 2021 and 22. And we're looking specifically at this white line, which is this year. The pink line is last year. When you consider that net sales is at 18,656. 14,813 last year.
Yeah, I did the calcs. I think it was 16% up year on year net sales, which is, I think if you'd have said to at the start of this year, we'd have all been incredibly happy with that. So yeah, I mean, just looking at the graphs, you can see following the average 2019, 17 to 19, we're going to see a little dip before we hit the bank holiday, and then back into September, and then we'll go back down for the rest of the year. But I think, going back to my point earlier, let's hope if we have an interest rate change that actually will do a bit better than that for the next few months at least, and we can hopefully have a solid September and October before we get into the quieter parts of this year.
Indeed. And again, let's just repeat that, ladies and gentlemen. The sales are going to start to drift off. All right. It is a simple fact. You know, as sure as eggs is eggs, it always kicks off in Jan, then quite nice for a couple of months, then a dip for Easter, a couple of dips for May, and then slight drifting off, dip down for August, and then a slow drift down. And again, let's just remind ourselves, this blue line here was the Truss Budget kicking in, and look at the effect that we all had issues
crazy,
there.
Right? That's crazy. Living through that was just, yeah, nuts. We've had a fair few explosions to have to come through, haven't we?
But again, I think, ladies and gentlemen, it's important that you've got through COVID, you've got through this, and those of us who have got slightly grey hair, we've been through interest rates at 15 or 16%. You cannot control the market, but you can control the way you deal with it.
Yep.
You know, so don't panic. You've been through a lot of shit. I'm sure there's a lot of shit to come, but you just deal with what you can deal with.
This too shall pass. That's my favorite expression. Don't get too carried away when things are good, and don't get too down when things are not. And we'll work our way through it. Take one bit at a time.
Excellent. Right. Net sales year to date, 508. This is stuff you can get paid on, ladies and gentlemen. 518,783, which is 12.4% further on than net sales in 2023. So therefore, at the rate we're going to be finishing, here we go, on 1,120,000 sales by the end of the year. You've got to remember that these numbers here do not include new home sales. Okay, so we have to add those on. So this number will finish on about 950 million. That's what we will end on, and then we have the new homes on, which will bring us up to, as I said, to about 1.12 to 1.4, 1.5, somewhere around there. You've heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
And honestly, that is bang in line with my predictions, or our predictions as a business. So, you know, last year you were pretty damn close as well, Chris.
Well, the funny thing is that it came in, and I thought to myself, I'm about 200 off, and then I realised that actually they don't do no homes on this, so you have to add them in. So I was thinking, oh no, and then all of a sudden the penny clicked.
Yeah, no, it's good. And again, you know, to be over 1 million transactions this year, I think is pretty good.
Indeed. Right. So there's some extra graphs there, which again, the countrywide managing directors, they love those. Again, goes over my head, these two, but we put them in just because some of you like them. We've done all that. Right. In terms of pound per square foot. And again, I'm a massive fan of this. Not many people adopt this, but the bottom line is this, is that the pound per square foot at sale agreed, which is the orange line, will basically almost perfectly matches what the land registry will be in 5 or 6 months' time. So if you want to know what's going to happen to land registry prices in 5 or 6 months' time, you look back. And I'm telling you here and now, ladies and gentlemen, house prices in 5 or 6 months' time will be 5 to 5.5% higher than they are today. And we know that because we've been tracking it since 2019. So you just follow the orange line. And if you just want to, just in your mind's eye, just look at that orange line. If you moved it slightly to the right, it matches the green line, which is the pound per square foot exchanged. And then if you apply the pound per square foot exchange to the land registry 2 months later, that's how it all matches up. There you go. All good stuff.
The great news is overall, despite the fact of all the doom mongers, you know, these pound per square foot is going in the right direction.
It is, and it's a different way to measure it, but I'm a firm believer in it. And
absolutely. It's a leveler, right? You're comparing apples with apples.
It doesn't work particularly well at a town level. Works pretty darn good at a regional level, but nationally it's a thing of beauty. Obviously, that can change if the market goes belly up and the properties are in the pipeline. But if the market's still doing its thing, follow the pound per square foot at sale agreed every week, and it will give you a flavour of what's going to happen to house prices. So if someone says, do you know when the bottom of the market is? We can tell within a month when the bottom of the market is, because we can follow that pound per square meters. Right, okay, I think, let's just move that, okay. I think we are just about there with the national stuff. I'd like you at the end of the programme to go and have a chat about your final thoughts. But is there anything that's burning in your head at the moment before we go to Canterbury?
No, I don't think so. Let's go to Canterbury, and we'll do a sum up at the end.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we said before that we'd be using the Insights platform from 20EA. And as I said, myself and Verona here, we're having a bit of a fangirl fest. It really is absolutely superb. And I must stress, not been paid to say this. In fact, Verona has to pay for it herself, actually.
Exactly.
Okay. And
there's the irony.
There you go. On a local basis, it is cheap as chips. On a national basis, it's not cheap. But again, there's not many national firms out there, so they could afford it. But honestly, on a town-by-town basis, it is an amazing, amazing bit of kit. I would stress to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got any query with regard to the data, please do contact 20EA and ask for their insights team. We're going to be looking at Canterbury and primarily residential sales and a little bit of lettings as well. So let us go and have a look at Canterbury. So for the purposes of this, the postcodes that we are looking at is CT1, CT2, CT3, and CT4. Okay. And I think the first thing that we're going to do is let's just have a quick look at stock levels and just have a flavour of what's been happening to the number of properties for sale. Now, on the stock levels of 20EA, we always look at the complete month. I would never do the halfway through a month. It just and we can see, so we'll do June. So in June 2019, there was 1,226 properties, and that had dropped down to 853 in June 22. So today, well, at the end of 1,372. Therefore, there's been nearly a 50% uplift. Well, it's been more than 50%. It's nearly 60, early 60% off the top of my head, uplift in number of properties for sale. So again, if you are a Canterbury agent and a homeowner saying, well, you can say, well, there's 55, 60% more homes for sale in Canterbury. Therefore, the market has changed. So that gives us a flavour. Now, what I would do is this: I'm not going to look at the stock per agent because most agents aren't interested in that. I know what you lot are like. You want to see your market share for listings. We will look at the sales in a second. So the average price of a property that's come on the market since January 2019 to the 7th of July this year been 411,000. So I'll just make a note of that. Okay. So here we go. So Miles and Bar. That's quite impressive. I mean, you've got to admit, that is heads and shoulders above everyone else, isn't it?
It certainly is. I know that agent very well. I've worked with him previously. It's a really great estate agent, so that doesn't surprise me. And incredibly consistent. Look at that. They've held their market share very strong over a number of years.
That's nice.
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to take out HomeWise, because HomeWise take an existing agent's property, relist them at a lower price with some form of retirement mortgage plan on it, and really it's just doubling up. So I'm just going to take HomeWise out just as a matter of producing more of a level playing field. Let's go look at Wards. Again, Wards, I mean, interestingly, the average price there, 346. Let's just look at Miles and Bar, 367. So it looks like Miles and Bar and Wards are the lower to middle, like your
middle market. Absolutely. They're not the premium brand, they're the middle market, but they're the volume market, right?
Indeed. Let's go and look at Regal Estates. Let's go.
Well, the name would suggest more premium, but no, the average property price does not.
No, I know some of the team at Regal, really good agents, know their onions, certainly. So again, nice and steady and consistent.
Yep.
Slightly higher in around 2020, so there's been a slight drift off, but nothing end of the world. Charles Bainbridge, they seem to be dropping there, so I don't know what you guys are doing, but there's a slight. But again, the price
higher end, a little bit higher.
Not much more. I mean, we haven't found. Now, this is interesting, Verona. I published this a few days ago. This will be number 73 or 74 in terms of towns.
Yeah.
And there's only ever been one town where the number one agent by volume, and I mean number one and the big bad, Daddy Owen or whatever, it's the same agent who's the number one agent in the upper quartile.
I did notice your post the other day, actually, and I wanted to know which town it was.
Exeter.
Exeter, excellent. That's interesting. Well, I wouldn't have said Exeter now. I wouldn't have. Funny.
And the agent there, big agent, big dominant agent, and what is particularly interesting there is that they are dominant, but there's been a very discernment. It's not huge, a slight drift up, but not huge. But their premium has gone up. Strange, but they're still dominant.
Good on them.
Still dominant in both. But normally, we'll look at the upper quartile just to see who. So Godwin Curtis, see what they're doing. That's growth to me, not work.
Yeah, that trend is upwards for sure. Yeah.
Tunnels, 3. Oh no, actually, let's just. So we've not got any upper quartile at the moment. Sandersons, slight drift off. Mans, nice and steady around the 3%. Your move. Okay.
Getting lower on the price point here, also.
There's no posh agents yet, is there?
No.
Bairstow Eves, slight drifting off. Foundation.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, there we go.
There they are.
There you go. Isn't it? There you go. Isn't that interesting? Well, we'll look at the upper quartile. We'll go down to 20th place. Kent, estate agents. Stratton Parker.
There we go again. 1.2 million.
Okay. PB drifting down. PB are, ladies and gentlemen, Purple Bricks are growing their market share. Be aware, keep an eye on them. Amos, Dalton and Flint. Browns. Taylor Wimpey, New Homes. So we'll just have to take a picture. So Fine Country.
1 million.
Okay, we'll just do Winkies as well. Okay, there you go. Good stuff.
So there's 3 or 4 agents in there that are kind of in the top.
Let's go and look at the upper quartile. So upper quartile would be 15.3, but we might have to go up a quintile, but we'll have a go. Let's see how we get on. There's not many posh houses in Canterbury. You would have thought there would be,
no, there isn't.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it at 600,000 there.
Yeah.
And okay, actually, hold on a second. Let's go there. So 1 million a plus.
Yeah.
In Parker. Let's just go 750 to a million. Does that change anything?
Still Stratton Parker.
So it looks like Stratton Parker and Find a Country are the daddios.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I was expecting others, but there you go. There you go. That's the beautiful thing about data, ladies and gentlemen, that you can
actually you can't argue with it.
You can't argue. So again, round of applause for Miles and Barr. What we're now going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to now have a look at how many do these guys actually sell, and how many do they reduce, and how many fall through. So I think that's really important. So let's go and have a look at that. Okay, so we're going to move I'm going to look at the last year because I think that's only fair. Hold on a second, ladies and gentlemen. We'll just do that now. Now, there is a massive amount of data on this screen, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the magic is that sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. Now, Verona, you published something that went on Property Industry Eye, and you got incorrectly slated by saying the magic. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you actually look at how proficient an estate agent is, Yopa, were you number 1 or number 2 out of the top 30?
No, so we're number 10 for listings. We're number 5. When I posted the data, we were number 5 for SSTC, and we'd sold 91% of the properties we listed, and we were number 3 for exchanges. But in the month of April alone, we were number 1 for exchanges. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So again, yes, you have to put it on the market to sell it. But
Correct.
The magic thing is this: you have to you only get paid when you do sell it. Right. Okay. Okay, a lot of data here, and I just for Verona, have a look at the fall throughs and price changes. You know what I'm going to say because we're all on this one. But ladies and gentlemen, very interesting. You're looking at your new instructions, which is this column here, and your new instruction market share, and you're going, yeah, we've got more market share for listings, and and look at the number of properties we've sold and look at the sold subject to contracts. Okay, that's great. But I'm sorry, that's irrelevant. This is where the magic happens, ladies and gentlemen. These 4 columns here, exchanged and withdrawn. So therefore, let's this is so important. And if you are a damn good estate agent, this is where you can prove the gold. Because I'm telling you here and now, there was one national estate agency in the last few years who's been blowing everyone out of the water when it comes to how efficient they are as an estate agent. They had this data and they weren't using it. Verona, you should have had you on board, but there you go. Okay, so here we go. So this is again, I'm going to get detailed, but please stay with me, Canterbury agents, because there is true gold here. In the last 12 months, between the 8th of July and the 7th of July 24, so 8th of July 23, according to these records, 523 properties have left Miles and Barr's books. And property only leaves the books if she exchanges or she withdraws. Okay, so 276 of the 523. How do I know that? Because I had 276 and 247 together. 52.7% have exchanged, and 47, you put them on the market and you were unpaid. And this is the magic number. So 41.5% of homes, let's get rid of HomeWise, because that does screw the figures up. There we go. See how it changes the numbers. So 44.15% of properties that have left Canterbury agents' books in those postcodes in the last 12 months, agents have been paid on, i.e. exchanged, and 55.85% have been withdrawn. Okay, so the higher your exchange percentage ratio, the more you're getting paid on and the more efficient you are as an agent. Miles and Barr have exchanged contracts on 52.7% of properties. Wards, 47, Goodwin Curtis, 68, Connells, 727. Therefore, in this instance, Connells have only exchanged contracts in just over 1 in 4 homes that they put onto the market. Therefore, if I was Goodwin Curtis, I could say, Mrs. Miggins, you've got a 7 out of 10 chance of moving home with me. If you go with Connells, so I'm not criticising Connells, these are the stats. And these are the stats that even Connells uses for their own. But I know they have this data because this doesn't get any better than this data. This is Rightmove Plus on steroids, ladies and gentlemen. 1 in 4 chance, or just over. A huge difference. That is massive difference. Now, I will just say for the record that when you're dealing with small numbers, the numbers can go a bit askew. But, you know, Miles and Barr, well done on your market share, and you're better than Wards. But Goodwin Curtis, you know.
SSTC at 82% of Goodwin Curtis and 68% on exchange. That's impressive.
Yeah. So, I mean, the fall-through rate with Goodwin and Curtis at 22, I mean, you can see the average fall-through rate in the last 12 months, 27%. So it gives you Page & Co. look really good that their fall-through rate is pretty low, which is nice. I wonder if they are on, I don't know, reservation
agreement.
But that number does look about
stands out. It absolutely looks out of kilter with the rest. Yeah.
And then the price changes. So again, Miles and Barr, are they pulling them on the market? I mean, they are reducing 7 out of 10 homes, whilst Page & Co. are reducing 25% of properties.
Yeah, I mean, a question mark there on the 70%. Are they listing more because of overvaluing to get them on the market and then having to reduce the prices, which is impacting their SSTC rate? Because we know the more price changes you do, i.e. you don't get it on the market to get the maximum exposure initially, then you risk your opportunity for exchange of selling and then exchanging. So that could be a factor.
Well, as mind reading capabilities, we do have that data. So we're next. Anything else you want to say on this before we go and look at whether?
No, I think it'd be good to follow this conversation through. Actually, yeah.
Okay, so here we go. So let me get rid of HomeWise. Wow.
I didn't see this before. I've not seen this data before you put it up, and it actually totally supports the point I was just making about Miles and Barr.
Right, so let me explain what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. Right, okay. So in the last 12 months, Miles and Barr put on 525 homes, as of Wards 199 and so on and so forth, all the way down, okay? 20EA will do a AVM automated valuation model, or a Valpal figure, other AVMs are available, figure on all of those listings. And they will apply the same model to all everyone else's listings in the town. Just for the benefit, they reckon an average listing in Canterbury is presently 450. The number's irrelevant, but it's a nice figure to start with. What they then do is they then look at, do you know, mate, I've not seen these overvaluing. These are huge overvaluing.
Yep.
This is, I've not seen this for a few months.
No, me neither. Yeah.
Everyone seems to be overvaluing. Right, okay. Miles and Bar, on average, will overvalue by 4.13%. So basically, what the original asking price is versus what 20 EA Insights think it's worth, okay? Now, the average, 2.95. We have been talking around 1.5%.
Absolutely, yeah. So
therefore, it appears that overvaluing is endemic in Canterbury. Those are, and it looks like everyone is guilty of it. Now, there's nothing wrong with overvaluing if you get the price down, and we did say that wards do get their prices down, but the question is, are they getting them through to exchange? Okay, there's, a better than the average. I mean, there's got to be some really low numbers in here if that's 44, but again,
they're only getting fees on 50% on average of their listings, right?
Again, let's look at what Godwins are doing. So there you go, Godwins. Look, ladies and gentlemen, 68% exchange rate. And that overvaluing is 1.6.
Yeah.
Sticks out like a sore thumb in a good one. Page and let's just see what Page and Co. 56. Okay. The price for changes there at 25. They're still they're not overvaluing a great deal. So that's good. Okay. So the next step is we then look at the price achieved. So this is the price achieved from the original asking price. So if you've overvalued it, how much are you going to get off? And on average, Miles and Bar have been taking 7.49. These are huge numbers. I have not seen numbers like this for months and months and months. So therefore, you're all overvaluing, and then you're having to take between 4%, 6%, and 7% off the original asking price. So if you want to know exactly which agent is more efficient, you take this number away from that number. And that shows you, on average, what you're getting for the property. But a number of people don't like percentages, so we then look at pound notes, okay? So we're going to start off. If everyone put on a £450,000 house, what would everyone achieve for it? And you can quite clearly see here that there is a huge range of numbers here. So therefore, according to the Insights platform, Miles and Bar would get 433 for an average 450 house, whilst Wards would get 456.
Look at the Connells number, Chris. So they are overvaluing by 3%, but they're achieving 7% more based on that 450 asking price, which is a 31k variance to average. Can you just go back to the previous report to see what Connells would? So Connells are, their SSTC rates 1 in 3. It's probably small numbers as well then. So if we're 1 in 3, and then your exchange rate on Connells is 27%. Those numbers seem odd, given
the numbers are low. So basically,
it's skewed by a couple of big numbers.
It is going to be affected, but basically what we're saying here is this: you have a 1 in 3 chance. No, well, actually, just a 1 in 4. You'll get an extra 30 grand if you can get the sale away.
Yeah.
A 1 in 4 chance of getting it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a balancing act. And again, these are independent stats, ladies and gentlemen. I've got any issues with them, speak with 20 EA. Yeah, I mean, I am genuinely gobsmacked. I don't, normally you can't put a fag paper between them.
No, exactly. Yeah.
There's an absolutely massive number difference here. I'm genuinely surprised. So again, I think the magic thing here is this: anyone who's looking at this thinking, so well, it's like anything. You take the stats that make you look good, don't you? And there are stats here for everyone.
And it's interesting also, if you look at I'm intrigued as to Ward strategy. So they're overvaluing significantly more than, I've not seen anybody with an 8% overvalue in all the months that I've been looking at this data. They're achieving less than that, but what the variance to the actual asking price.
Are you banging something against your banging?
Sorry, I was touching the screen with my nail. That's why were you getting some noise? Sorry.
It sounded like you got your big hammer.
It's just my nail. So yeah, you're getting a 17k more variance to the average price of 450. So their strategy, whatever it is working for them in the context of getting the best asking price for the customer.
You see, Ward's is at 47.
Yeah.
Which is higher than the average, and they get a decent price. So is Ward's the better agent. Goodwin's greater exchange ratio, but don't get as good a price.
Yeah. And the thing is, whenever you're in these business, they will clearly know what their pricing strategy is, what their marketing strategy is. So they will be able to put color on these numbers, because the numbers are only one side of the story, right? Then you add the context of the strategy for the business alongside it.
Yeah, I mean, normally, ladies and gentlemen, we never find where the number one agent that sells the most gets the highest price. There is always a balance. If you pick one, you don't tend to be as good as the other one.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else before we go and look at timescales?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, so this shows us here in the last 12 months which agent is getting the sales agreed quicker and how long they're taking to get through. So Godwin Curtis will take from new instruction NI to completion on average of 154 days, whilst Connell's 228 days. Big difference there.
Big difference. Yeah.
Big difference. Okay. Some agents don't hang back instructing the sale until survey, so sometimes their blue line is a bit more. So generally, you tend to look at. I mean, I'd say that about Mans here. They probably just hang back because their sale agreed to completion is 102 days. So I reckon they're hanging back there. Which is nothing wrong with that. So you're looking at the numbers. Just a bit interesting fact: on average, 82 days to find a buyer in the last year, compared to 65 days. Summer of 22 to summer of 23, and as I said, 82 days from the summer of 23 to the summer of 24. Just a quick look, which I thought was interesting, is 129 days to get a sale from sale agreed to completion from 22 to 23, and 120 days. That would surprise a lot of people. And that's
not much improvement there, is there?
It's still 9 days, and that's across the whole UK. Yeah. Sales are taking about a week and a half less in the last 12 months compared to the 12 months before. Okay, should we go and have a look at the lettings, unless there's anything else you want to talk about here?
No, great.
So it's pretty obvious here that this here is a student peak. We haven't looked at these numbers, but that is quite obviously a student peak. And interestingly, look at the number of properties that have been coming on the market has been decreasing. That's interesting. So let us just have a quick look at, and the first thing here is this. If you look at the stats, ladies and gentlemen, of the property market, yes, the number of landlords that are selling up has increased, and the number of landlords who are buying has decreased, but still the net numbers are that the rental market is still growing, even though one's gone. Landlords selling up increased by 43%, landlords buying down by 20%, but there are different numbers. The magic is that the net figure is still growing. It's growing at a slower rate. Your biggest problem is open rent. Look at that. 15 to 20% of the market is going to open rent. And you're not, some agents saying, well, it's other agents. It isn't. You're all putting your houses on the market on normal. Landlords are leaving you because you're not offering good value for money. You're not giving them a reason why they should use you. You're just ringing up with problems. Right, let's just go and have a look. Student tenant. Okay, Regal. Well done, guys. Caxton's. Martin & Co. Miles and Bar. Sanderson's. Your Move. Man, I mean, again, these are new instructions.
So consistent. Well, that one shows a little bit of growth, Man does.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, but the rest of them all look like it's been a pretty consistent.
You tend to find that what you're looking for, if you're growing the business, there tends to be a general trend upwards or general downwards. Looks like Abode looks like they're growing. Student places, again, there's the student spikes. We'll just finish on number 20. Okay. There you go. Good stuff. Okay.
Because it's a student town, there's obviously a fair spread of dedicated letting agents as opposed to residential sales and lettings in combined. Yeah.
And those of you who are not a student let town, what you tend to find is that most agents will place the properties on the market, and you're either in October, November, or in December. It normally tends to be the same week. It's kind of like a gentleman's agreement, a gentleman or ladies agreement to all put them on at the same time. Then you go hell for leather.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting times. Right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, those of you at Canterbury, I hope that you have enjoyed those and you found them useful. Final thoughts with you, Verona, on anything you've seen today, or just anything that you want to tell the ladies and gentlemen out there in the world of property?
I think it's fair to say that, we're halfway through the year now, and the election was at the start of this year. I think the election was on our minds as to what sort of impact that was going to have, the timeframes, the disruption pre and post. Now that that's out of the way, it's the result that we were all expecting. And, they've moved pretty quick, to be fair, on their pledges on what they're going to do. And there's been a new announcement today. We've got a new housing minister, new announcements on removing the blocks to more building and planning rules, etc. So I think they followed through quite quickly. So from our perspective now, we've just got to get on and deal with what's in our own control. And over the next couple of months, we've got the last few months of the year to really kind of give it a go, give it a push. The market is still performing well. We're listing well, we're selling well. A little eye on fall throughs that we've seen a sort of slight creep up on that. But overall, I think with lots of reasons to be positive and build on the really great work that agents have done so far this year.
Verona, exceptional as always, ladies and gentlemen. You can see why we invite her back every couple of months. You've been absolutely fantastic value for money, Verona. Thank you again for coming on the show. I know you really enjoy it.
I do.
Yet at the same time, I really do appreciate your insight, and so thank you for that. But more importantly, I'd like to thank you, the viewing public, for watching the show. Comes out most weeks. This will be coming out on Friday, the 12th of July. Look forward to seeing you next time for the next Property Stats Show, where we'll be giving you some guidance and support and some stats so you know what's happening in the property market. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. See ya.